Yeah, you did say that, and you said it on the podcast. You're absolutely right. You did say that.
Say that again. I'm absolutely what?
This one time.
That's all it takes. That's all I need for today. We'll work on the next one next time.
I got to pat you on the head from now on now, from time to time. That's what keeps you going.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Card and Compliance.
Nice to meet you, David.
Yeah. The fact that you can still say that after all this time is very reassuring.
That it's still nice. Yeah. I got to keep you pumped up. It's the only way. I got to keep you propped up there so you can do your part.
Is that what it is? Is that okay? Okay. I'm good. I'm ready. So, so let's talk about the very first thing that people have asked us to actually do, and we followed through for them.
The HIPAA boot camp.
Yep. So you've asked for it, and we made it happen. People wanted a HIPAA boot camp, and we made that happen. So coming up May the 11th and 12th, 2017, we have our first 2-day intensive HIPAA boot camp. What you think about that, Donna?
I think it's going to be fun. Well, at least for me and you.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of great information. And I've taken a look at all the stuff that you've outlined, and I'm like, can we do that in 2 days?
It'll be hard, but, that's people want it. They say, how fast can you do it? Everybody's urgent, got to do this now. Well, we're going to see how that feels.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be, like I said, intensive.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be a lot of downtime. We'll have some homework things to do, and there'll be some breakout sessions and things like that. But it's really taken what we've typically taught in like an 8-week class, and we've condensed it down into a 2-week course, or 2-day course rather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's no break in between. You better come with a, bright and ready to learn brain. Needs to be rested and ready to take it on, because we're fast. But we are also going to be cognizant of how much information there is, and so we've built in these little ways to take, okay, that's a topic. Now let's take a little bitty break. Mm-hmm. But you get to spend 2 full days with us. Yay. So There you go. It's Thursday and Friday, May 11th and 12th.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And so if you are very interested in this, and you should be, then you can go over to helpmewithhipaa.com/bootcamp to get more information, find out how you can register to attend. All right, so we hope we see everybody at the boot camp. So let's dive into as we have come to call it, speaking gigs that's going on. So what do you have going on now, Donna, with some of your speaking gigs that we have going on?
Well, we got something in April, May, June, and July, along with our big boot camp plan. I'm going to be in Orlando, April the 7th for the Southern Oncology Association of Practices. And I'm doing my job to promote their organization and their spring meeting. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. And then in May the 2nd in Hilton Head Island. Anytime it's an island, I'm happy. Georgia MGMA, their annual conference. I'm going to be speaking there on Tuesday morning on cybersecurity. So that's going to be exciting that you got to wake up with me in cybersecurity. And then June 21st, I'm going to be down in Valdosta, Georgia, South Georgia MGMA. And if you're down in that area and you want to plan something for me to come by your office, that'd be a good time. And then in July at the Atlanta Association of Legal Administrators. So I keep talking about we're doing more and more with the lawyers, and there's your proof. I am now speaking to the Association of Legal Administrators. So that's going to be an interesting little thing for me to go in there. They're not my people, but they are my people.
They're not my people.
But they are my people. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to all of those and our boot camp and our podcast and, the work I do. So, we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, she actually does work outside of podcasting.
No, it's speaking, podcasting, training. So I got a lot of stuff going on. Lots of irons in the fire, lots of discussions going on about some new and interesting things that I'm going to get involved in and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of the podcast itself, we have developed a survey. We'd love for you to take over and take a look at it. On our website, it's HIPAA. Help me with HIPAA. God, I can't get it out today. helpmewithhipaa.com/survey.
It's like 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes. We don't ask for a lot of.
I don't even know if it's that.
Click. Yeah, maybe even 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty short.
And it depends on how much you want to think or say in the open comment area. Yeah, but we tried to make it where you just click, and you're done. So please give us some feedback. And as our podcast is growing, we want to make sure that we're providing all of the different options that we need and doing the right things.
Yeah, because sometimes people want to hear about something we haven't talked about, and we may not have known we hadn't talked about it yet. So it's all about bringing it
it's not like I don't have a list of 20 things for us to talk about. It's just... And our interviews, we're trying to get interview dates set with multiple people, and we just can't get it all locked down where we're available and they're available at the same time. So that's getting a little frustrating. We've got some great interviews we're lining up. So until I get a date, though, I'm not going to tell about it.
Okay, be that way.
Okay, fine.
So in today's podcast, we ask a question.
Yes.
Is the biggest security threat insiders?
Yes, those inside your organization, not outside. It's like Abagnale said in his session that we went to. Every breach is when somebody does something they shouldn't or doesn't do something that they should.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. So is that mostly insiders? And as many cases as I've been seeing out there in the news, I'm leaning towards maybe yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even when you have somebody who has hacked your system or you've got ransomware or any of those things, they typically have always come from the fact that somebody, like you said, did something that they shouldn't have done or didn't do something they should have done. They let them in. They prey on people's inability to recognize phishing things or pop-ups that come up on your screen, and you call, quote unquote, Microsoft that logs into your system and helps you out, which, by the way, doesn't happen. I could spend a good 5 minutes ranting and raving about that because I see it almost on a weekly basis. I'm having machines come in because people have done that, and it drives me nuts. But the threat is most certainly more so the insider than the outsiders. So when you think about, what are we going to do to block hackers and what are we going to do to block cyber threats and all this other kind of stuff, and you're not looking internally, you're missing the bigger picture for sure.
Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff internally to save yourself. And yes, there's the security awareness training with the ransomware and making sure things are up to date and being vigilant and all those things. But then you've got a step further, and these are the things that you need to think about, and it's easier to tell you like real world things that happen because then it's like not just us saying this could happen, this did happen, and it happened to somebody else, and you surely do want to be the one learning from somebody else's mistakes, not being the teacher. So be the student, and we're going to share a few things that you need to think about up in here.
Even if your name's not Shirley.
Oh, God. Well then, and we're off. So, there are several news stories, and I follow a lot of different blogs and news feeds and all of this kind of stuff. But I frequently get alerted to things by databreaches.net and HIPAA Journal. And so shout out to those guys for fighting the good fight and keeping everybody informed. So I always want to give them their blogs. I know they work hard on them and they do a lot of really cool stuff. And I want to make sure I thank them for what they do to allow us to do what we do.
Wow, that's a lot of doing.
I know there's some doo-doo in there.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my head is on the desk. So anyway, keeping it clean.
That's right.
You know, the last episode you talked about peeing on yourself, and this one you're talking about, what is going on? I'm seeing a trend here.
I don't know. It's just one of those, you're in a cycle. You can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, self-defecation doesn't mean that. But anyway, the first one we're going to talk about is something that is near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah.
Somebody did something in email they shouldn't have done.
Yeah, this one's in St. Louis. It's actually a health system I'm familiar with up there in St. Louis, Barnes Jewish, and BJC Healthcare. And they had to do a notification that some insider made a boo-boo. And they emailed 644 patients in a spreadsheet to someone else using unencrypted email. And, this is, like you said, it's somebody did something that they, weren't supposed to do. And it's always this falls under the, you know better than that, don't you? Versus, why did you even do that? How did you think that was okay? So this is definitely one where it's either a lack of training or a mistake. It doesn't seem to be anything malicious from the reporting that they've done as far as what BJC released. But that doesn't alleviate their requirement to report it clearly, because they had to do the release, and then they had to send a notification to all of the patients that said, we don't really think anything went wrong or anything happened, but an unencrypted email with a bunch of stuff in it was sent. And we did have, a bunch of training and all that kind of stuff. Now,
this could be something like the one on the last podcast where we talked about the practice changing how they handled email and moved it to a different provider. It could be something like that happened. And now you don't know that before. Maybe email, when your email provider thing may have seen, hey, this has the word PHI in it, or it has the word patient in it, so we're going to automatically encrypt it. And then you move to another platform that doesn't have that set up yet.
Right. So the way to stop this problem is plan and train and retrain all the time.
Yeah.
And potentially there's some technology you can use, like data loss prevention and these kind of things it's technology you add on top of your email that studies things, as well as the technology you could add that looks at the information and automatically encrypts it. So there's a lot of ways you could solve this problem, but you have to realize you can't just say, don't email it, and you say that when you hire them, and then that's it. It's not going to work.
Right.
People make mistakes. Somebody gets in a hurry. I mean, I've had something similar to this happen. It was the Friday before a holiday, like Memorial Day, which is coming up, and it was a Friday before the holiday, and somebody asked for something and needed it right then and there, and the person that had to give it to them was in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't click the part that said go encrypt it. They clicked the part not to. And then, it's one of those that as they send it, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Too late.
That's one thing I do love about about using Gmail, is that it has that undo capability if you set it up, so that when you click something, it's like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
You do have a few seconds to undo it.
Yeah, but you got to remember, when you're in a hurry, you don't even think about it till you're out the door, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
There goes the reason you were in a hurry for something fun, so anyway.
Yeah, ouch. So the next one here, though, this one kills me, because it's like, do you not have enough work to do?
Yeah, at least with the first one, it was a mistake, and, you can retrain and stuff. But the next couple ones, they're just flat out, don't be stupid, people. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, and it's not even malicious. It's just stupid.
Yeah, it's either they were never trained on minimum uses and disclosures, which I find that very hard to believe, considering, particularly the first one. But, come on. This is something that, and again, you know what, is a big reason for constant training. I'm sure in those large organizations, they make them do the video thing or attend a class once a year, and they sit through the video, and that's it. It's not something constantly on their mind. So this was one employee. One. So all it takes is one. 2,459 patients. Because she was curious. I was like, what? This is a St. Charles Health System in Oregon. And when I read in the article, the Oregon paper article about it, it said the vice president of compliance, quote, was she had no explanation other than she was curious. Now, they couldn't put tone in there. But the vice president of compliance, it had to be either an incredulous tone or a anger tone. There had to be something more than just matter of fact. So, or at least, when they were thinking it before they wrote it down to tell the press. So, OMG.
Yeah.
And it went on for years. So October 2014, and then they discovered it in 2017. Now, why they discovered it, though, is that random manual medical record access log thing that they do. Because you're supposed to do these. You're supposed to access the logs of, people. And a lot of the larger organizations, and the smaller ones don't even do this much most of the time, is they will say, well, if it's a VIP, we're going to monitor it the whole time because, they're the ones most likely to get hit. But otherwise, we're just going to randomly pick charts and look. Mm-hmm. And so since October 2014, over, 2,459 patients, she's been able to access, and they didn't catch it in these random things until January 2017.
So how's that working for you?
I know. How's that working?
I mean, really, if you got that happening that many times, your random screening is not working.
And can you imagine the person doing the investigation? Hey, that looks odd. Let me go see what else they done.
Somebody said, why didn't you catch this sooner?
Yeah, and that happened. And that's not going to change anything it didn't show up in our random audit. So this is exactly why products like the Sphere product that we've had those guys on the show before, and things have changed. I mean, it's been 2 years. Can you believe we've been at this 2 years?
Oh, wow. It's time to get them back on the show.
I know. And they're a product, and we like those guys, and they're business partners of ours. So we're big fans of them, and that is disclosed. So whether you use their product or not, but theirs does machine learning and looks for what would be normal access for each individual to do their job. And then when it sees something that's an anomaly, it alerts you. So you don't give it the rules. And the reason that that's important, like in this particular case, they pointed out that the caregiver, the person that was snooping out of curiosity, had legitimate reasons. She wasn't going outside the access levels that she already had. She was accessing, she had legitimate access to those records. She just didn't have a business reason to see those particular records. Had she been participating in their care, maybe. So you don't know if it's just somebody going, oh, that looks interesting. Let me see where that came out of. And, just wandering around because they were bored. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But Sphere would have caught that certainly within the first couple of months of it happening. Certainly not years later. And it may because depending on who she's accessing and the date and the time and all that, there is no way that many would have gotten past them. And I would doubt it may have found it right away, just depending on, there's a lot of variables like in anything else. But the lady signed an affidavit. All I did was look around.
Yeah, I didn't do anything wrong.
And then like within the same week, there was an announcement from in Virginia, the Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Center. Virginia. And curiosity again, no malicious intent. And again, a random audit found activity that had been going on again for 3 years, 2014 to 2017. And this one, though, is the hospital or the university allowed community physicians' offices as well as their vendors access to records to do their jobs. So same kind of thing. They were supposed to have access to these records to do their jobs. But then, of course, there's 2,700 patients they're just snooping at. Just snooping, just looking. And it wasn't inside the hospital. So you got to worry about your business partners, too. Mm-hmm. This is why you vet them and find out if they're doing this kind of stuff. So your associated covered entities that you're allowing access and your BAs that you're allowing access, they in there snooping. They in there. Get in there. And again, Sphere would have definitely caught these because it would have fallen outside where these people should have gone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It would have caught. Certainly, again, no, I just can't even comprehend that 2,700 patients over a 3-year period could have gotten past one of those, where it clearly can get past a human.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I haven't done the math, but that's more than a couple a day.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just one person. So, but think about how many, the one person did 2,459.
It has to be a night shift person or something. I mean, how do you have that much time to do that?
I don't know. I don't know. I got nothing.
You know, and I just saw in the news like earlier this week that they're now saying that doctors can now work, 26 hours nonstop?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some crazy mess like that. And of course, we're not talking about a doctor here that done this, but, how do you not have enough to do in the healthcare environment that you've got time to do that? It's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's going to cost you. And speaking of costing you,
yeah.
This next one, it cost.
Well, yeah, this one, this is actually out of Canada, but the information in it could clearly happen here. And what the judge said is something that really got my attention. And it was a student, so it was like an intern that was assigned to the family health team, which is, I don't know, maybe Canada's primary care kind of thing. But she is checking out records of family, friends, local politicians, other staff members of the clinic, individuals in the community. So I guess it's people they're not politicians. They don't work there. They're not her family and they're not her friends. She just randomly picked somebody, saw them at the grocery store. Going to check them out. I don't know. They were in the line in front of her in the grocery store. And she's like, I wonder if she has that looked at. But at any rate, 139 patients over from September 2014 till March 2015. So they caught it. They caught this one pretty quickly. It's still not quick enough, but much quicker than 3 years. But the biggest reason, that they took her to court and she was fined $20,000 plus a $5,000 victim surcharge. I'm not quite sure how that applies, but again, it's Canada. I wasn't going to spend time researching it. I got other stuff to do. And but the quote from the judge is the one that really got my attention, and it said, when the judge was giving her sentence and the levy and the fines and stuff, the judge said, overall, the victim impact statements reveal a lack of trust and a sense of reluctance to share information with future healthcare providers. I believe this is a truly significant factor, given that we all must believe that when we go to the doctor for our physical illnesses and our mental health illnesses, that we will be able to trust our own healthcare practitioners and their team, and that what we tell them will be respected and held in confidence so we can receive the treatment and care we deserve. Now,
wow.
Bam, mic drop.
No kidding.
$20,000 plus the $5,000. So I don't know if that's $5,000 for each of the 139. I don't know. But at any rate, that is a point that I have spoken about repeatedly, is the cases of so many breaches are going to be a problem. So that's why I brought that one in there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But then this one was like, bam!
Yeah, if you want to be a drug dealer, here's how you do it.
And I used to work a lot with ambulance services. I helped do billing software for ambulance services. So I really am aware of a lot about how those scenarios work. And this one was up in Illinois. What's going on? We had Virginia and and Illinois and Oregon and where was the other one? St. Louis.
We're not in Atlanta today.
I know. I was so excited when I realized I was going through this. I was like, hey, nothing's in Atlanta. Although there was one recently in Atlanta. So, but I'll tell you that one too. I don't have it in the notes, but I'll tell you. So this one, quite brilliant from a criminal state of position. Again, went on for years, 2013 to 2015. So it was a paramedic who, well, he's a former paramedic now.
I would hope so now.
But he was a supervisor, a dispatch manager, and a systems administrator at the ambulance company. So first of all, we only promote our best people and they would never do this. I'm just saying, this is learn from somebody else's mistake. I'm sure that people thought this guy was awesome. Somebody did. Everybody
never
didn't
assume.
Don't assume. We know what that'll do. But the former paramedic has now been indicted for federal identity theft and fraud, along with some other things where he had a scheme that he was stealing narcotics from the local hospital because the way it worked is they had like a narcotics bag for those fentanyl and morphine, all that high-end addictive painkillers that are so valuable. And so they would go in and show their little box with the stored stuff, and then they would show their log of when they used what was in there. The hospital would check it, and then they would refill it. That sounded like a good system when they implemented it, Not so much, because whenever he would start running out, then what he would do is he would watch the runs. That's what they call it. The runs is the ambulance runs, not the runs. He would watch the ambulance runs for patients that either they could have never been given sorry about that. We could never been given these kind of drugs in the first place for whatever reason. Something would prevent them from having it, so it wouldn't already be on the chart. Or even better, they refused treatment and transport, and then he would just alter it so that they gave them the drugs and didn't transport them. But he would alter their records, then take the drugs, and then take the little box and show that he gave them out. And then he had the drugs.
Very good.
For years. 2 years. Wow, is all I can say. Wow.
So what it doesn't say what he was doing with them, with the drugs? Not that it matters, but
I would assume that he was selling them. That's an awful lot of years to be a drug addict and not have something else happen. Noticing if you're doing that many opioids, eventually that's going to catch up with you, and you wouldn't make it 2 years doing that many of them. So there were a lot of cases, and that one's in the courts and, just recently got indicted. So, but again, here's an insider that has now caused this problem, and you've got fraud cases for your own patients. And by the way, there was no need for that supervisor to access those patients. So there's a whole lot of layers there that's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
And so, and then we take the fraud case a step further.
Oh, yes. The aspiring millionaires in the New York Frogs.
Yeah. So now we got, fraud case. It's a fraud case.
Ribbit.
So there's 3 people that have pled guilty in Brooklyn for $55 million in false and fraudulent claims to Medicare and Medicaid.
Talk about no sleep.
Okay, so
some of you 80s people will get it. It'll come back around and hit you in a little bit.
Yeah. So Olga, I'm not even going to try it. Progoskorfsky and Yurly Omenchenko. So
both of Brooklyn.
Yeah, of Brooklyn. And then Isaac Aronov is the third one. But so
Split Croatia.
They're from Croatia.
They're from Split Croatia.
But anyway, they plead guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud, and the $17 million in money they're giving back, and the other guy pleaded guilty to the conspiracy and defrauding the United States government and all this other stuff. But here's what they did. I mean, clearly they were into some stuff if you're pleading guilty to that. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And this gets to, it's an insider because it wasn't like they were running one of those false clinics. They weren't running a fake clinic and using stolen patient data, which does happen. No. What they were doing is one of them worked as a medical biller, and then one of the two ladies, one worked as a medical biller and the other one worked as a therapist manager, or the first two people, I don't know. So at a Prime Care on the Bay, LLC, and Bensonhurst Mega Medical, PC. So they had two locations, and so you got one working in the billing department, one that's a manager as a therapist. So basically they stole stuff and filed false claims. The patients themselves were having to do things that were medically unnecessary, and then those would be filed separately where the money went into a separate account. So physical and occupational therapy provided by unlicensed staff that were part of the scam. And they falsified all kinds of patients' charts and medical billing documents. And they even had the other guy would pay them to go to those offices. And in those offices, then they would then abuse the patients, and the patients had no idea. So there's 15 other people involved in this whole thing. So it was huge. But again, it was happening by insiders. See? Every now and then I got to get you back because you do that all the time. But that's last episode, I got you back. So you have to do it again. So this was huge, though. I mean, millionaires? But, I wonder, it doesn't really say exactly how they got caught. Must have been potentially a fraud investigation into the Prime Care and Mega Medical Care, because it sounds like they were employed, that they didn't own it. And then they would have these patients come and put them through stuff and file it and modify stuff. And
there's probably somebody somewhere saying, yeah, I went by there and they pay me $100 to get
I know.
And somebody over on aisle 9 was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. When you're walking parallel down the aisle as the next person over. And
yeah.
Like, wait a minute, I got to hear this a little bit more.
Yeah, you shop in a place you hadn't planned on looking at anything. You find you'll be looking in the makeup aisle because you can hear what's going on over there.
Yeah, when people are reading it, they're not really reading the ingredients. They're just hanging around listening to what you're talking about.
Unless it's me, because I read that stuff. I want to know the label. I'm a nerd. Can't help it. So all of this being said, it does bring it back around to what that judge brought up in the Canada case is, it's something I brought up before. I'm concerned about a crisis of trust in the healthcare environment. If the whole objective of all of these new things that everybody's doing is promoting preventative care and early diagnosis to heal things and cure things before it became a problem, this stuff ain't gonna help it.
And we're already seeing that happening. I mean, there's already articles about stuff like that where, patients don't trust the providers. And the funny thing is you have the people that's, oh, I don't really care. They can have my information. It's not going to hurt me at all. Mm-hmm. And then you have the other side is like, good grief. I can't give anybody anything because it's going to end up, in the wrong hands or somebody's going to look at it and know information they shouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is those people who will say, oh, you can have it, I don't care, when something happens to them, like what's happened to some of these folks we just talked about, oh, then they're up in arms.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, one of the things that I have noticed is happening more often is when I go in and do my talks and I'm scaring people with telling them what happens when these breaches occur, and these are just more cases of it, but the medical identity theft and the fraud and all that can happen. And even the healthcare people will come up and ask me, oh, I got one of those letters. What can I do to protect myself? Because they're uncertain, and really there's not a lot you can do. From a medical standpoint, credit, yes. But other is, should I be asking my doctors, my personal doctors? I don't know. It's I certainly like to ask questions, and it's kind of maybe we do a webinar for like the general public on what should I ask my doctor about my data.
Yeah. Well, you may not remember this, but I brought this up many, many, many episodes ago that, my look into the future was going to be that as the general public started learning more and more about this, that they would be the ones that actually would drive the change that we were trying to get people to do on their own.
Yeah, you did say that, and you said it on the podcast. You're absolutely right. You did say that.
Say that again. I'm absolutely what?
This one time.
That's all it takes. That's all I need for today. We'll work on the next one next time.
I got to pat you on the head from now and now, from time to time. That's what keeps you going. Oh, you're just wrong. But there is a point that I wanted you to get an opportunity to bring this up, because I know at HIMSS, this was one thing that we talked about a lot after you went to the session with the Shark Tank guys about, people are frustrated with healthcare because, number one, you can't protect my data. And then number two is you can't get it from point A to point B because nobody talks to each other. And so why don't you finish us up with that second piece of that frustration is I can't secure it, but I also can't move it around. So moving it around is going to open it up more, but I really can't secure it. So there you go. So tell them about which one was it, Mr. Wonderful?
Well, they were both had the same advice, but they were
and
coming
it was which two was it of the Shark Tank folks? It was
Robert Hershevek and then Mr. Wonderful. I never remember his name because he doesn't use it. Kevin. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his last name.
And you're such
O'Leary.
a big fan.
Kevin O'Leary. I know. Okay. Well, when people use pet names, you end up not remembering their real names. Yeah. So Kevin O'Leary was the other one, and they basically both of them said, and I won't quote it word for word, but it was the fact that healthcare, and they were talking to the healthcare IT and administrators and all that, this huge room that, I don't know how many thousands of people were there, but they were basically saying that healthcare needs to get their stuff together, get your crap together, because there's no reason why. And he gave the example that, he can do all types of things technology wise. He can get, investment information across the world in a split second, and he can do all the stuff with technology. But when he was, in New York and had to try to get a picture of an X-ray to his primary care physician in LA, it couldn't happen. It couldn't make it happen. It was just too complicated to make happen. And how ridiculous that was. And, Kevin's point was basically the same, that you needed to get your act together, but it was more from a financial standpoint of, If there's billions and billions and billions of dollars that really want to be billions, they want to be invested in the healthcare market. There are people out there that are just looking for reasons to put money and inject money into the healthcare market in the United States, but they're scared to because the healthcare market doesn't have their act together. And so people talk about, well, we need funding, we need money for this and money for that, and we could do all these things. There are people out there that want to give you that money, but until healthcare as a community gets their act together and gets on the same page and uses technology to do this and learns how to protect, privacy and security of data and information, all that stuff, until that happens, it's going to be harder and harder for the infusion of cash to come. So they came in from different angles, but it was a very interesting talk.
Yeah, and so I immediately, when I was looking at that article, it certainly made me think of what you were saying, because I didn't make it to that session, but David was a trooper. He did.
Yeah, and kind of in that same vein, I think it was last night, I was in a Facebook group, and I just happened to see the word HIPAA as I was looking at the conversations. And I don't have it in front of me, but it was basically a guy saying, can I just opt out of HIPAA?
Oh, yeah, you sent me that.
I know. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I started scrolling, and he was like, I went to the doctor to have a test done, and I have literally been playing phone tag with the doctor's office for a week to get my results because they wouldn't post them in the online portal, and they wouldn't email them to me, and they wouldn't leave it on the voicemail, and it's just all these different things. He was like, my gosh, I just need to know what the results of my tests were.
Well, that's the practice, blaming HIPAA stuff right there,
Yeah.
That's another problem in our industry is blame HIPAA. It's easier that way.
But he finally they just said, everything's fine. That was their response. Everything's fine. And he's like, oh my gosh, really? I spent 6 days trying to get everything's fine.
Oh, jeez.
And I can't imagine with some of these tests. I mean, I don't know what he was tested for, but you probably want to know.
That's horrifying, but that's customer service. I would change providers. I don't know about you, but that has to do with customer service, not HIPAA. And bless his heart, he doesn't know that.
No, he wants to opt out of HIPAA.
Yeah.
And it's not HIPAA's fault. Poor thing. Poor HIPAA.
I know. Can't be blaming HIPAA. Oh, don't be blaming HIPAA.
I know. Poor little HIPAA. So anyway, that is our show for today.
Yeah, let's end on that one right there. Let's end on opting out.
So anyway, we appreciate everybody for listening to the podcast. Remember, you can review us on iTunes, share us out on social media. Also, don't forget, head on over to our website, helpmewithhipaa.com, and you can go to /survey and fill out the survey. We'd love for you to do that. And also, if you want information on our boot camp that's coming up, then it is helpmewithhipaa.com/bootcamp, and you'll get all the information there for that. So remember, for Donna and myself, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It is about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.